I choose her. The Alpha King's voice cut through the royal mate ball before anyone even had time to breathe. Every noble in Moonvale's grand hall turned toward the same place. Not the elegant Omegas standing beneath the crystal lights. Not the daughters of powerful families wearing royal colors. But the quiet girl near the back wall. The one everyone had already forgotten. Clara Whitmore froze. For a moment, she wondered if she had imagined it. Because a man like Adrian Veilheart, the Alpha King of the Northern Pax, did not choose someone like her. He chose alliances. He chose legacy. He chose the future of an entire kingdom. At least, that was what everyone believed. The Royal Mate Ball was supposed to be a night of tradition. Hundreds of guests had traveled from across the kingdom, each hoping their family would be connected to the throne. The strongest bloodlines stood proudly beneath golden banners. The most admired Omegas smiled as they waited for the Alpha King's decision. And then there was Clara. She wore a simple blue dress she had repaired herself the night before. No expensive jewelry. No famous family name. No powerful pack behind her. She worked quietly in the royal archives, spending most of her days surrounded by old books and forgotten histories. She had come tonight because the palace required every royal servant to attend. She never expected to become the center of the room. "Your Majesty," one council member said carefully, stepping forward. "Surely there has been a misunderstanding." Adrian did not look away from Clara. "There has not." His answer was calm, but something in the room changed. Clara could feel every pair of eyes on her. Some were curious. Some were confused. Some were already judging her. She lowered her gaze, wishing she could disappear into the crowd. She had spent her entire life learning how to stay unnoticed. Being noticed by the most powerful alpha in the world felt more frightening than being ignored. But Adrian saw something no one else had seen. Earlier that evening, before the ceremony began, he had watched Clara kneel beside a frightened young wolf near the palace gardens. While others walked past, worried about their expensive clothes and royal appearances, Clara had stopped. She had spoken softly. She had offered kindness without expecting anything in return. And now, standing across the crowded hall, Adrian felt the impossible pull of a bond he had spent years believing would never come. His wolf had recognized her before his mind understood why. Not because of her appearance. Not because of her status. Because of something deeper. Something real. "Clara Whitmore," Adrian said, his voice carrying across the silent hall. "Come forward." She slowly looked up. "I think you have the wrong person." A few people laughed quietly. Adrian did not. Instead, he stepped down from the throne platform and faced her himself. "No," he said. "For the first time in a very long time, I know exactly who I'm choosing." The entire hall went silent. And Clara had no idea that those few words would uncover a secret buried by the royal pack for generations. Because the girl everyone ignored was not ordinary. And the Alpha King had just changed the future of his kingdom forever. The moment Clara stepped forward, the entire royal hall seemed to hold its breath. She could feel hundreds of eyes following every step she took. A few moments earlier, she had been invisible. Now, she was standing in front of the Alpha King, surrounded by nobles who had spent the entire evening wondering why someone like her was even in the room. Clara stopped several feet away from Adrian Veilheart and lowered her head. "Your Majesty, I believe there has been a mistake." Her voice was quiet, but steady. Adrian looked at her with a calm expression that gave away almost nothing. "Why do you believe that?" Clara glanced around the hall. "Because everyone here knows what a future Luna is supposed to look like." The words were not bitter. They were simply honest. She knew the traditions. She knew the expectations. A Luna was supposed to come from a respected bloodline. Someone who could strengthen alliances between powerful packs. Someone who belonged beside a king from the moment she was born. Clara had never belonged anywhere. Before Adrian could answer, one of the royal advisors stepped forward. Marcus Everly had served the throne for decades, and his voice carried the weight of tradition. "Alpha King, your decision affects more than personal feelings. The future of the Northern Pax depends on stability." Adrian turned toward him. "Are you saying my choice is a threat to stability?" The room became quiet again. Marcus carefully chose his words. "I am saying the pack expects wisdom from its Alpha King." Clara felt the tension building around her. This was exactly what she feared. She did not want to become the reason Adrian faced opposition. She did not want a kingdom divided because of her. "Maybe he is right," Clara whispered. Adrian looked back at her. "What did you say?" "Maybe this should not happen." Her honesty surprised everyone. You are the Alpha King. You have responsibilities. You cannot let one unexpected moment change everything. For the first time that night, something shifted in Adrian's expression. Not anger. Something closer to respect. Most people would have used the bond as an opportunity to gain power. Clara was the first person who seemed ready to walk away from it. You think I chose you because I was forced to? Adrian asked. Clara hesitated. I do not know why you chose me. Adrian stepped closer, but kept a respectful distance. Neither do I. Not completely. His words surprised the room. The Alpha King admitting uncertainty was something no one expected. But I know this, he continued. Every decision I have made as king has been based on duty. Every alliance. Every agreement. Every sacrifice. But tonight, for the first time in years, my wolf recognized something before my crown could explain it. Clara looked at him, confused by his words. Before she could respond, a sudden reaction came from the far side of the hall. A royal guard had opened an old record book from the palace archives. His face changed as he read the pages. Your Majesty, he said slowly, there is something you need to see. Adrian turned toward him. The guard held the ancient document carefully. Clara Whitmore's name appears in the royal records. Whispers spread across the room. Clara's heart sank. She had spent her whole life believing she was nobody, a forgotten Omega with no important history. But now, the palace itself was suggesting otherwise. Adrian walked toward the document, his expression becoming serious. The truth hidden inside those pages was about to change everything they thought they knew about Clara Whitmore. The old record book rested on the table between them, covered in years of dust and sealed with the royal mark of Moonvale Kingdom. No one in the hall spoke. Even the whispers had disappeared. Clara stood still, staring at the pages as if they belonged to someone else. That cannot be possible, she said quietly. The guard looked uncertain. Miss Whitmore, your name is written here. Not as a servant, not as a citizen, as part of an old royal registry. Adrian looked over the document carefully. His expression remained controlled, but Clara could sense the change in him. The Alpha King, who had faced countless challenges without hesitation, now seemed troubled by a piece of forgotten history. Where was this record found? Adrian asked. In the sealed section of the royal archives, the guard replied. The section that has not been opened in many years. Clara's eyes moved toward him. The irony was impossible to ignore. She had spent years working inside those archives, organizing the kingdom's forgotten stories, never knowing one of those stories was connected to her. Why would my name be hidden there, she asked. No one answered immediately, because everyone in the room was thinking the same thing. Someone had wanted it hidden. Adrian dismissed the guests and ordered the council to remain. The grand hall slowly emptied until only a small group remained. Clara felt uncomfortable standing among people who had spent the evening questioning whether she belonged. She turned toward Adrian. I should leave. Adrian looked surprised. Why? Because whatever this is, it involves the royal family. I do not want to create another problem. Marcus Everly, the royal advisor, watched her carefully. You are already involved, Miss Whitmore. Clara looked at him. That is exactly what worries me. Her answer caught Adrian's attention. He had expected fear. He had expected excitement over being connected to the throne. Instead, Clara looked more concerned about causing trouble for others. It reminded him of the moment he first noticed her. The moment she helped the frightened young wolf outside the palace gates while everyone else walked away. She had no reason to care. Yet she did. Adrian looked back at the document. The records show that your family was once connected to an ancient role within the northern pacts. Clara frowned. My family. She almost laughed. I grew up hearing that my family had nothing. No influence. No history. Nothing worth remembering. The words were simple, but Adrian heard the pain behind them. Someone had convinced this woman that she was insignificant. And he hated that. You were not forgotten because you were unimportant, Adrian said. You were forgotten because someone wanted you to be. Clara looked up. Why would anyone do that? Before Adrian could answer, the lights inside the hall flickered. The ancient seal on the record book began to glow faintly. Everyone stepped back in surprise. The mark was not reacting to the king. It was reacting to Clara. The room became silent once again. Adrian stared at the symbol, realizing this was not just a hidden family record. It was something much older. Something connected to the bond between Alpha and Omega. And Clara finally understood one terrifying truth. The reason people had ignored her all her life was not because she had no place in the kingdom. It was because they were afraid of the place she was meant to have. The glowing mark on the ancient record book slowly faded, but the silence it left behind felt heavier than before. Everyone in the royal hall understood one thing. Whatever secret had been hidden for generations, it was connected to Clara Whitmore. Adrian Veilhart looked at the symbol one more time before closing the book. Everyone leaves except the council. His voice was calm, but no one questioned the command. Clara watched as the nobles walked away, many of them looking back at her with uncertainty. The same people who had ignored her moments ago now looked at her like she was a mystery they needed to solve. When the doors finally closed, Clara turned toward Adrian. "I need answers." Adrian nodded. "You deserve them." Marcus Everly placed the record book on the table. "The symbol belongs to the Heartkeeper line." Clara frowned. "I have never heard of that." "Most people have not," Marcus replied. The Heartkeepers were believed to be a rare Omega bloodline connected to the balance between alpha wolves and their packs. Clara looked confused. "You mean I am supposed to believe I have some special role because of a symbol on an old page?" Her voice was not angry. It was tired. She had spent her entire life being told she was ordinary. Now, in one night, everyone wanted her to believe she was something more. Adrian noticed the doubt in her eyes. "Clara." She looked at him. "I do not need you to become someone else." His words surprised her. "Then why did you choose me?" Adrian was quiet for a moment. He could have given the answer everyone expected. He could have talked about destiny, bloodlines, or royal tradition. Instead, he told the truth. "Because before I knew your name, I knew your heart." Clara looked away, unsure how to respond. The connection between them was real. She could feel it. But she also knew a bond did not erase the problems waiting outside those doors. "The pack will not accept this easily," she said. Adrian's expression hardened slightly. "I know. Your council wants someone they can control. I know. Your people expect a Luna who represents power." Adrian looked directly at her. "And maybe they need to learn that power does not always look the way they expect." For the first time that night, Clara saw the man behind the crown. Not just the Alpha King. Not just the ruler everyone feared. A man carrying the weight of every decision he made. But before either of them could say more, the doors opened. A messenger entered quickly and bowed. "Your Majesty, the council has requested an emergency gathering." Adrian's eyes narrowed slightly. "Why?" The messenger hesitated. "They believe the bond has influenced your judgment." Clara felt her stomach tighten. She already knew what they were thinking. They believed she had somehow changed the Alpha King. They believed she was a weakness. Adrian stepped forward, but Clara stopped him. "Let me go with you." He looked at her. "You do not have to face them tonight." Clara shook her head. "Maybe not. But if this is about me, hiding will only prove them right." Adrian studied her for a moment. Then he gave a small nod. The girl who once stood alone in the corner of the ballroom was now choosing to stand beside the most powerful alpha in the kingdom. And neither of them knew that the council meeting waiting for them would reveal the first betrayal hidden inside the royal pack. The council chamber of Moonvale Kingdom had always been a place where decisions were made quietly and carefully. For generations, alpha leaders had entered those doors carrying the weight of the pack on their shoulders. But tonight, the room felt different. Everyone was waiting for one thing. They wanted to know if Adrian Veilhart, the Alpha King, had made the greatest mistake of his reign. Clara stood beside him as the massive wooden doors opened. The whispers started immediately. "She actually came. She has no place here. This is exactly why tradition exists." Clara heard every word, but she kept walking. Adrian noticed the way she held herself. She was nervous. Anyone would be. But she did not run. That mattered more than confidence. The council members sat around the long table, their expressions serious. Marcus Everly stood at the center. "Your Majesty, we requested this meeting because the future of the Northern Packs cannot be decided without discussion." Adrian looked at him. "Then speak." Marcus glanced at Clara before continuing. "The mate bond is powerful. No one questions that. But a bond can affect judgment. The role of Luna is not only personal. It is political." Clara expected Adrian to answer immediately. Instead, he remained silent. She realized why. He wanted the council to see that this was not a decision made out of emotion alone. It was a decision he had considered as a king. "What exactly are you asking?" Adrian finally said. One council member placed a folder on the table. We want proof that Clara Whitmore understands what this position requires. Clara looked at the papers, but did not touch them. A test? She asked. Marcus nodded. A chance to prove that you are more than a name from an old record. The words were polite, but Clara understood what they meant. They still saw her as someone who had appeared out of nowhere. Someone who needed to earn the respect they had given others automatically. What happens if I fail? Clara asked. The room became quiet. Adrian looked at her, but she kept her eyes on the council. If I fail, will you ask the Alpha King to reject me? No one answered right away. That silence told her enough. Adrian stepped forward. Enough. His voice was controlled, but powerful. Clara does not need to prove her worth because a council believes she has less of it. But Clara gently raised her hand. Adrian stopped. No, she said softly. Let them. Everyone looked at her. If I am going to stand beside the Alpha King, I need to know what this role means. Not because they demand it, because I choose to understand it. Adrian studied her carefully. In that moment, he saw something the council had missed. Clara was not trying to take power. She was trying to carry responsibility. The council agreed to give her a chance. But before the meeting ended, an older member placed another document on the table. There is one more matter. Adrian looked at the page. His expression changed. Where did you get this? The council member answered quietly. From the sealed royal archives. Clara looked between them. What is it? Adrian did not answer immediately, because written on that page was a truth about Clara's past that someone had spent years trying to erase. And now, the secret hidden behind her ordinary life was finally beginning to surface. The document on the council table carried a royal seal that had not been opened for decades. Adrian Veilhart stared at it longer than anyone expected. Clara noticed immediately. This was not just another old record. This was something personal. Your Majesty, Marcus Everly said carefully. The truth should be known before the council makes any decision about the future Luna. Adrian slowly picked up the document. His expression remained calm, but Clara could feel the tension around him. Where was this found? Adrian asked. Behind the oldest section of the royal archives, the council member replied. Hidden beneath records from the previous Alpha King's reign. Clara looked at the paper. Why would my history be hidden in the royal archives? No one answered at first. That silence felt heavier than any accusation. Adrian finally opened the document. As he read, his eyes changed. Clara had seen him face the entire council without fear. She had seen him command a room with a single sentence. But now, for a brief moment, she saw something different. Surprise. What does it say? Clara asked. Adrian looked at her. Your family was not removed from royal records because they were insignificant. He paused. They were removed because they were considered too important. The room went quiet. Marcus explained the history that had been forgotten. Many years ago, the Heartkeeper line had served a unique purpose within the northern packs. They were not rulers. They were not warriors. They were protectors of balance. They helped alpha leaders understand the needs of their packs and reminded them that leadership was not only about strength. Clara listened carefully. She wanted to believe it, but part of her still struggled. If my family was so important, why did I grow up believing we had nothing? Her voice carried years of confusion. Adrian looked down at the document again. Because someone changed your records. Clara's heart sank. Someone. Adrian nodded. Someone inside the royal system. The room changed instantly. This was no longer about tradition. This was about betrayal. Someone had erased Clara's identity and allowed her to live as someone forgotten. One council member stood. Are you suggesting the royal archives were manipulated? Adrian looked at him. I am saying someone wanted the truth buried. Clara looked at the Alpha King. Do you know who? Adrian did not answer immediately. That hesitation told her more than words could. You suspect someone close to you. Adrian's silence confirmed it. For the first time, Clara saw the burden he carried. Being Alpha King meant every betrayal came from someone near him. Every hidden secret threatened the entire pack. Why are you helping me? Clara asked softly. Adrian looked at her. Because this is not only about you. He placed the document back on the table. Someone tried to decide your place in this kingdom before you ever had a chance to choose it. Those words stayed with her. Clara had spent her life believing she was invisible. Now she realized someone had worked very hard to keep her that way. Before the meeting ended, another message arrived from the palace guards. A sealed letter had been discovered in the same hidden archive. It contained only one sentence. Clara read it quietly, and her expression changed. The heartkeeper must never stand beside the Alpha King. Everyone in the room understood the meaning. Someone had not only hidden Clara's past. Someone had been waiting for this moment to stop her future. The sentence written inside the sealed letter changed the entire atmosphere of the council chamber. For several seconds, no one moved. No one spoke. The words were simple, but they carried a warning that had been waiting for years to be discovered. Clara Whitmore stared at the page in her hands. The heartkeeper must never stand beside the Alpha King. She read the sentence again, hoping she had misunderstood it. But the meaning was clear. Someone had feared her before they even knew her. Adrian Veilheart took the letter from her carefully. His expression was unreadable, but Clara could sense the anger beneath his calm. Not anger toward her. Anger toward the people who had stolen her truth. "This letter was written before I became king," Adrian said. Marcus looked concerned. Then whoever wrote it had access to the previous royal administration. The council members exchanged uneasy looks. The possibility was becoming impossible to ignore. Someone within the royal system had hidden Clara's identity for years. Someone had manipulated records. Someone had decided she should remain unknown. Clara took a slow breath. Everyone keeps talking about what I represent. A bloodline. A symbol. A position. She looked around the room. But nobody has asked what I want. The council became silent. Adrian watched her carefully. This was the first time Clara had spoken not as someone defending herself, but as someone claiming her own voice. "I did not ask to be part of a royal secret," Clara continued. "I did not ask for a bond with the Alpha King. I did not ask for people to look at me differently." She paused. "But I also will not let someone else decide that I should disappear." Adrian felt something change in that moment. The same woman who had once stood alone at the edge of the ballroom was now standing before the leaders of the entire pack, refusing to be defined by their opinions. The council members began discussing what should happen next. Some wanted the investigation kept private. Others wanted Clara removed from the palace until the truth was confirmed. Adrian listened to every argument. Then he stood. The room immediately became quiet. "Clara stays." His voice left no room for misunderstanding. "Your Majesty," one council member protested. This could create division among the packs. Adrian looked at him. A pack divided by truth is easier to heal than a pack united by a lie. No one answered. Clara looked at Adrian, surprised by his words. He was not protecting her because of the mate bond. He was protecting her because he believed she deserved a choice. Later that evening, Clara walked through the quiet palace halls. Everything felt different now. The same walls that once made her feel invisible now held secrets connected to her past. Adrian found her near the old archive entrance. "You should rest," he said. Clara smiled faintly. "That is difficult when I just learned my entire life was built around a missing chapter." Adrian stood beside her. "I know what it feels like to carry a role you never asked for." She looked at him. For a moment, the distance between King and Omega disappeared. They were simply two people trying to understand a future neither of them expected. But before the moment could last, a palace bell rang through the halls. A messenger arrived with urgent news. The information had already reached the outer packs. Rumors were spreading. The kingdom was starting to question the Alpha King's choice. And among those rumors was one dangerous claim. Clara Whitmore was not the lost heartkeeper. She was an imposter. The rumors reached Moonvale faster than anyone expected. By sunrise, the story had traveled through every corner of the northern packs. The Omega from the Royal Mate Ball was not a forgotten heir. She was a fraud. Clara Whitmore heard the whispers before she even reached the palace courtyard. Servants who once ignored her now watched her carefully. Guards who had greeted her politely now looked uncertain. It felt like she had returned to the same place she had always known. The place where people decided who she was before learning the truth. Clara stopped walking. For a moment, she wondered if this was exactly what the person behind the hidden records wanted. Not to remove her by force. Not to create a public conflict. But to make her doubt herself. Adrian Veilheart found her standing alone near the garden entrance. "You heard." Clara nodded. "Everyone knows." Adrian looked toward the palace walls, his expression serious. "The rumors are spreading because someone wants fear to move faster than the truth." Clara looked at him. "And what if they are right?" The question surprised him. "Do you believe that?" She looked away. "I do not know what to believe anymore." Adrian stepped closer. "Clara." She looked back at him. "My entire life, I was told I was ordinary. Then one night changes everything. and suddenly everyone says I am important. How do I know which version of me is real? Adrian was quiet for a moment. Then he answered honestly. The version of you that stopped to help a frightened wolf when nobody was watching. The version of you that wanted to leave instead of using power. The version of you standing here right now, asking questions instead of demanding answers. His words stayed with her. But before Clara could respond, a royal messenger arrived. Your Majesty, the outer pack leaders have requested a public hearing. Adrian's expression hardened slightly. They want a trial. The messenger hesitated. They want proof. Clara understood immediately. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Not a private conversation. Not a hidden investigation. A public decision. The entire pack would decide whether she belonged. The hearing took place in the grand courtyard of Moonvale Palace. Representatives from different territories gathered beneath the royal banners. Some looked curious. Some looked doubtful. Some had already made their decision. Marcus Everly stepped forward. Clara Whitmore, the pack recognizes the importance of your claim. But questions remain regarding your identity and your connection to the Heartkeeper line. Clara stood before them. The old version of herself would have stayed silent. She would have apologized for taking up space. But that girl no longer existed. I understand your doubts, Clara said. I have spent my whole life not knowing where I came from. But I will not pretend to be someone else just to make people comfortable. A few voices in the crowd grew quiet. Adrian watched her from the side of the courtyard. He knew this was her moment. Not his. Then an elder from one of the northern packs stepped forward with an old family record. There is something you should know, the elder said. The Heartkeeper line was never passed down through power. Everyone listened. It was passed down through choice. Clara looked confused. What does that mean? The elder looked toward Adrian. It means the bond does not prove she belongs to the kingdom. He paused. Her actions do. The courtyard fell silent. For the first time, the pack began to question their own judgment. But then the elder opened the final page of the record. His expression changed. There is one more name connected to this secret. Adrian looked at the page. Clara saw the color leave his face. Because the person who had hidden her past was not a stranger. It was someone who had stood beside the throne for years. The courtyard of Moonvale Palace became completely silent as the elder held the final page of the ancient record. Everyone was waiting for the name written beneath the hidden seal. Clara looked toward Adrian Veilheart, and for the first time since she arrived at the palace, she saw something she had never seen before. Not anger. Not fear. Hurt. Your Majesty, Marcus Everly said quietly. What does the record show? Adrian did not answer immediately. His eyes remained on the page. The truth was finally in front of him, and it was not the truth he wanted to find. The person who removed Clara's name from the royal archives, Adrian paused, was my father's closest advisor. A wave of whispers moved through the crowd. The betrayal was not from an enemy outside the kingdom. It came from someone who had served the throne for decades. Someone trusted with the history of the pack. Clara looked at the record again. Why would he do that? The elder answered. Because the Heartkeeper line represented something powerful. Not control. Not authority. Balance. The old families feared that an Omega with that role could change the way the pack was governed. Clara understood then. The secret was never about making her powerful. It was about preventing her from having a voice. Adrian looked across the crowd of pack leaders. For years, we allowed tradition to become an excuse for ignoring people. His voice carried through the courtyard. We judged worth by family names, status, and appearances. We forgot that leadership is supposed to protect the pack, not protect old beliefs. No one interrupted him. The Alpha King who had once been expected to choose the safest political option was now standing in front of everyone, admitting that the system itself had failed. Clara watched him carefully. This was not the speech of a man trying to keep his crown. It was the speech of a leader willing to change because it was right. One of the council members stepped forward. And what happens now? Adrian looked at Clara. Everyone followed his gaze. For the first time, the decision was not being made for her. It was being offered to her. Clara, Adrian said, the kingdom needs an answer. But it must be your answer. She looked around the courtyard. She remembered the girl she had been before that night. The girl who believed being unnoticed was safer. The girl who thought kindness was the only thing she had to offer. Then she looked at the people who once ignored her and now waited for her words. I do not want a place beside the throne because of an old prophecy, Clara said. I do not want respect because of a forgotten bloodline. She took a breath. I want to stand here because I choose to help build something better. The courtyard remained silent for a moment. Then one by one, the pack leaders lowered their heads in recognition. Not because of a title, not because of a symbol, because they finally saw her. Months later, Moonvale Kingdom began to change. The archives were opened. Old records were restored. The voices of overlooked pack members were finally heard. Clara did not become a Luna because she was the hidden answer to an ancient mystery. She became one because she proved that compassion could be stronger than tradition. Adrian remained the Alpha King, but he ruled differently. He no longer believed a crown made someone worthy of leading. He believed leadership was earned every day through trust and responsibility. One evening, as they stood together outside the palace overlooking the kingdom, Clara smiled. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had not noticed me that night? Adrian looked at her. I would have continued searching for a future I thought I needed. He paused. And I would have missed the person who showed me what that future was supposed to become. The girl who once stood alone in a crowded room was no longer invisible. She had found her voice. The Alpha King had found a reason beyond power. And the kingdom learned a lesson it would never forget. Sometimes the person everyone overlooks is the one who can remind an entire world what truly matters.